Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Many of you have been asking me to talk about the new education policy. So I was waiting for the final draft, which has come out today. Government of India announced it. The HRD minister, who will soon be called education minister, because that's one of the headline features of the new education policy, that the change that Rajiv Gandhi had brought about in 1986 with his education policy, India's last national education policy, which had renamed Education Ministry as HRD Ministry, and Narasimha Rao had become India's first HRD minister. That is now going to be restored back to Education Ministry. So, our Education Minister to be Mr. Nishank or Mr. Pokhriyal, and Nishank is his pen name because he is also a poet. He today released a very comprehensive document, which is the new education policy. Now, it's very comprehensive and maybe we'll talk about it many times, but let me look at some headline points and some key concerns. What are the complaints that we have with our education system? Now, specific complaints will vary with the vintage of the person you ask or the generation of the people you ask, but some complaints will remain common across generations. They will transcend vintages. One, for example, that your education doesn't get you jobs. Second, that too much of what we study in school and college is irrelevant to our lives. And we know that time and again popular culture has made fun of those things and underlined those. I remember from early 60s, there was a song from a film called Unpad. सिकंदर ने पोरस से की थी लड़ाई, जो की थी लड़ाई तो मैं क्या करूं, कौरव ने पांडव से की हाथापाई, जो की हाथापाई तो मैं क्या करूं. That something happened between somebody 300 BC or whatever. How is it relevant to me going ahead in life? Rhetorical point, but a point nevertheless. Or then Gulzar's famous song from his first film, Mere Apne, in 1970, at the peak of 1969-72 period, peak of unemployment in India. And this film was about unemployed, educated youth, important. And the song was हाल चाल ठीक ठाक है, सब कुछ ठीक ठाक है. And then it goes on, BA किया है, MA किया, लगता है वो भी MA किया, काम नहीं है वरना यहाँ आपकी दुआ से बाकी ठीक ठाक है. That means I've studied very hard, I've got these degrees, BAs, MAs, I don't know what to do with them because I don't have a job. So these are common complaints with our educational system, which this new education policy has tried to address. I can count other common complaints also. For example, our system is too exam centric. It is a Russian roulette. You know what Russian roulette is? Russian roulette is when you take a revolver, put a bullet only in one chamber out of the 6, and you revolve it, put it to your head and fire it. I mean, you have to be nuts to do it, and fire it. So your chances that you will survive are 5 out of 6, good, but 1 out of 6 chances that you will get a bullet in your head fired by yourself. That's not very good odds if you have the odds of 1 in 6 odds of having your life written off. Now, unfortunately, our exam system has become like that, which means you go there, chances are that you will survive, which means you will pass, you may even get decent marks. But if you don't, then you are out, you have a bullet in the head, you are history or maybe a footnote to history. But even if you are among the 5 lucky ones, you now have a situation where everybody gets more than 95%. In that case, where do you go with your marks? 85%, 88%. If you get 92%, your parents will go into a mourning. So this is madness. And this is madness that good people have not been surviving and they would not survive. And I will tell you something towards the end of this Karta Clutter. So please hang on. I'll tell you something from personal experience, that these are things that can destroy a life very early on. But later on, as things turn out, you may realize that these were not so relevant. These may not have been so relevant, may not have turned out to be so relevant in the case of some maybe who got fortunate. But for many others, that is like that 6th bullet in the chamber that was full. So that is the Russian roulette system of examination. Also, it's once a year. Once a year, you prepare all the time. That day, you can have a fever, you can have a headache, you can fall in a ditch, twist your ankle. your bicycle can have a flat tire on way to the school or college. Your mom may not have prayed hard enough, or maybe your competitor's mom may have prayed harder. So it's a lottery. That has to be addressed, and that is one of the big problems with our education system. There are other issues, and we can, as I said, we'll come back to this subject many times in Kartak Cutter. There is too much commercialization, there is too much corruption in education, there is too much insularity, which means if you study science, in physics, chemistry, math, then you go to become an engineer. Or if you are like me, not very good at math, then you go to botany, zoology, chemistry, because without math you can't do physics. But then you are left with that in your education from your class 10, 11, 12, and then you carry on through your graduation. And then you land up becoming an engineer or an MBA or a doctor or a college teacher in sociology or in physics or chemistry, anything, without knowing anything about anything else. So in fact, this was underlined to me once by Asaduddin Owaisi, the MP from Hyderabad. He was showing me around his educational institutions in Hyderabad that he runs. And I said to him that, look, what is this? What is it that makes so many engineers turn into terrorists? It is true. It is true. It is not counterintuitive. It might be counterintuitive, but it's factual. It's true. And he said, look, what happens is that from class 8 on, you're studying physics, chemistry, math, physics, chemistry, math. You're doing tuitions with physics, chemistry, math, physics, chemistry, math. And if you're going to become a doctor, then similarly in other science subjects. Or if you're studying sociology or arts or humanities, then that combination of subjects. So he said, because we were chatting in one of his engineering colleges in Hyderabad, in the old city of Hyderabad. He said, look, these kids from class 8 onwards are only doing physics, chemistry, math, tuition, parents, everything, then competitive exams to get into an engineering college. Then they get their engineering diploma. Then they go for MBA. Then they go for MBA once again, math, etc., etc. And then they come out. And by that time, they've learned everything. But now they want to know what is jihad. So his words, not mine. He said, जब उनको जिहाद समझना होता है, तो वो जाते हैं हजरत गूगल के पास. Which means they go to Google to ask for jihad. What is jihad? And when they go to Google to ask what is jihad, the first entry may be Markaz Dawatul Irshad Lashkar-e-Taiba. Jihad. Because then the most searched thing will pop up first. So maybe, he said, would have been better if they had also gone to a madarsa where the Maulvi would have told them what is the real meaning of jihad. Now, this is the usual story spoken in rhetoric and with the usual flourish that you expect from Owaisi. But this underlines one of the big problems with our education system. So we get compartmentalized too early in life. The other thing is we learn to do very little with our hands. Now, because we were brought up in small town India, maybe we at least knew how to fix a fuse, because your fuse will blow off all the time in your home. So you knew you will take out a wire, you will cut it, you will tie it, and you put that cutout back in. Most young people today, particularly in big cities, would not even have done that much with their hands, or fixing a cycle chain. Things like that. We are not really people who are trained to do or brought up to do very much with our hands. And I again learned this lesson once very cruelly in my life when I met Steve Cohen, Professor Steve Cohen, for the first time. He had come to India Today office, and Suman Dubey, my managing editor then, brought him to meet me, and he said, Shekhar, this is Steve Cohen. So we chatted for some time. And after that, I said, where are you going? Can I drop you on the way? So he said, I'm going to Imperial Hotel. I used to work in Connaught Place. It was just a kilometer. I said, all right, I'm going to South Delhi. I'll drop you in Imperial Hotel. I have a motorbike. He said, doesn't matter. So Professor Cohen sat on the back of my motorbike. We were halfway to Imperial Hotel, which is, as I said, just about a kilometer away. on that very crowded Janpath that my motorbike stopped. It stopped and would not restart again. It was an Enfield. I'm taking you back to 1984 or 85 or something, I think 84. So I said, okay, I'll wheel it to a petrol pump close by. He said, doesn't matter, let me try and do something. So he sat down on his knees, he bent down on his knees, he opened the spark plug, he blew at it, and he said, try again. I kicked the bike, it started again. And I said, Steve, you are an engineer. He said, no, I am American. So the cruel lesson for me was that we learn to do so little with our own hands. So that's another gap in our education system. Then there are many other things. For example, what do we do after we've learned by rote, collected these degrees? Because very often the job we go looking for, the profession we go looking for has no relevance to what we have studied. So many IIT graduates, for example, at the upper end of the academic success ladder, IIT graduates go and then take their MBAs and sell toothpaste. So once again, there was very little connection between what you studied, what even the state or your parents invested their money in teaching you, and what you're doing now. So once again, since I come from the Hindi heartland, in the Hindi heartland there's a metaphor, Padhe Farsi beche tel, which means you educated yourself to do one thing, but now you're doing something else. So in this case, Padhe engineering or beche toothpaste. Now I'm not running down the idea of selling toothpaste. All I'm saying is, what is the relevance between all that you invested your time and money and emotion into studying, and what has it resulted in? So those are the many big problems in our education. Now to think that one policy will fix all of this is not possible. But this policy on cursory reading, it's my first reading. The press conference has just taken place and I've been helped by Kritika Sharma, who covers education for us and is a first class education correspondent, the best you can get in Indian media. So she's done a quick read and given me some inputs. So look at some of the changes that have been made and which aim to fix some of these problems. So one is learning from the very beginning. Now, if you've been watching these Pratham surveys or Acer surveys, they'll show you that up to class 3, 4, 5, our kids can't even do basic addition, most of the kids. They can't spell basic words. So there is an effort to improve that. How? By extending your right to education from 3 years to 18 years. So far it is 5 years to 14 years. Now it's 3 years to 18 years, which means your nursery education, and this applies much more to children from families that are not so privileged. Our children and grandchildren will go to a good nursery school, but there are very few in India like us. So this is for all the rest of them, that nursery education also will now become part of RTE and government will invest money in that. Also, because right to education now goes up to the age of 18, that means your education, you are entitled to free and compulsory education, definitely up to your +2. You can pass your +2 fully at government expense. And while the policy doesn't say it, I do anticipate, and this will not be, I think, an unreasonable anticipation, that midday meal scheme also now be extended to everybody in these schools, which also is a good idea. So that way, your basic level learning will improve. The other thing it does is, it encourages, it doesn't make it mandatory, it doesn't lay down a language, but it encourages schools to keep the medium of instruction up to class 5 in the language that the students understand best of all. Now, there are some complications there. I don't know how will it work. For example, if you say minority institutions, one of the reasons convent schools in India became so attractive was that they had compulsory English medium education. But I am given to understand that a school will have the option, because the school can decide which is the language that the child understands best in. So once again, the question I don't have the answer for is that what will happen tomorrow, say in Delhi, in which language will Sanskriti school teach, or in Bombay, in which language up to class 5 with the Dhirubhai Ambani school teach. So uh, all those issues will find clarity as we go along, but the idea that up to class 5 you should be able to study in your mother tongue is not a bad idea, it's a welcome idea. At the same time, remember, it is English medium, it is English language that makes us equal. And that's very important, that we do not, in a Lohiite, Mulayam Singh Yadav kind of way, we do not create one more generation of Indians who can't do their business in English language. That will be a big injustice, but I don't think that is the idea. The other thing that happens is that today you have many regulators in education. So UGC is the most familiar, then AICTE is the next most familiar, that is the regulator that looks after engineering education. Then there is NCTE, that is the regulator that is the National Council for Teachers Education, which looks at colleges that give B.Eds, M.Eds. All these will be combined into one. So there will be one regulator in India. Once again, I think a good idea, but finally, these institutions are as good as the people you choose to lead them. Because if you choose your favorites or people chosen on the basis of ideology or politics, etc., then these institutions will never come of age. So you need to be very careful about the choices made for these institutions, because these will then set the agenda going ahead. On the higher education side, there is something very interesting. I'll come to that, but there is something else happening before that. Because we had spoken about insularity, now you can mix and match subjects. So, say in senior school, you can have, if you don't like physics and math, okay, you can have, but you love chemistry, you can have chemistry, or if you love biology, you can have biology, but you also like geography, you also like maybe history or sociology, you can have those combinations also. So you can have those combinations in senior school and also in college. So this insularity will now go. So Mr. Shekhar Gupta passing out his graduation with botany, zoology, chemistry, and then wanting to become a journalist and going to a journalism school, I was no oddity. That is how it's been done so far. Think of all the people who appear for IAS. They can be engineers, doctors, science, math, philosophy, anything, and then they choose any subjects for their IAS, etc. examinations. This disconnect is being addressed. Once again, the devil lies in the detail, and ultimately the success lies in the implementation, but it is now being addressed. The other big change in higher education at college level is that this 3-year degree course will be history, in the sense that it will be there to some extent, but remember FYUP, the dreaded FYUP 4-year degree program, 4-year undergraduate program that Professor Dinesh Singh, fine mathematician, Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, a wonderful man. You also see him write often on the print.in, he writes opinion for us. He was the Vice Chancellor of Delhi University 7 years ago when he started the FYUP, and it ran into opposition from unions of the left as well as the right. Because if there's one thing that entrenched elites do not like, it is change. And entrenched elites are not of the left or the right, they are common. So they both attacked him, the government attacked him, Modi government had just come in, the feeling of power, aura of power was running high. So the HRD ministry then squashed that FYUP program. This education policy brings back that FYUP program. It's a very welcome change. What this does is that you can have a 4-year undergraduate course now, which means the 4th year will be dedicated to research. And from this, the government has not yet finalized it, but they say this will evolve into a situation where if you get your 4-year undergraduate degree, you can go straight into research. If you still want to do only your 3-year degree course, you can do your 3-year degree course also and go out and do whatever. You can also enroll for an MA or MSc after that, but essentially the master's degree will now cease to have the same importance as it used to have, which means if you are research oriented, if you want more knowledge in any specific area, then take 4-year undergraduate program, a bit like some universities. My university, Punjab University in Chandigarh, has an honor school system, something like an honor school system. Then you can go straight into research. So that is a very interesting idea. The other thing is that what happens if you drop out? So again, the stigma you carry as a dropout. आप कौन है? BA first year fail, BA second year fail. Sometimes in some parts of the country, especially in Bengal, they would even carry cards. I remember it from my childhood and my parents talking about it. MA previous passed or BA second year passed, like that. So then once you drop out, you remain a dropout forever. Now you can keep your credits in a credit bank and you can go back to complete your degree education at any point of time. I think a very good step. Also, you can drop out after your first year in graduation, you get a certificate. You can drop out after 2 years, you get a diploma. You finish after 3 years, you get a bachelor's degree. You finish your 4 years, you get your 4-year undergraduate program. So you can go straight into research in many other areas. So these are good reforms, and once again, the option has been left to colleges on whether they want to give a 3-year degree course or a 4-year degree course, or they want to give both. I think chances are in the course of time that you will have most colleges offering both of these. Then there are other things that once again we'll talk about as time passes and as we go ahead. The internal assessment will be more robust, will be made more robust. Schools will have the option of having 2 exams in a year instead of 1 annual exam. So that Russian roulette I told you about. So your odds will improve, and because of the higher weightage for internal assessment through the year, that lottery of that one-day exam will not lose all importance, but it will become less of that revolver with 5 chambers empty and 1 with a bullet in it. Now again, on early reading, I will tell you the problems this policy does not resolve. For example, the problem that we described as commercialization and corruption. Now the way to handle that would have been to allow legal, commercial, profit-making education. But we continue under this policy also with this hypocritical fiction that education has to be not for profit. Now, how many people do run education businesses for charity? There are many wonderful charity institutions, but education is also an enterprise. And now if you see so many universities and colleges around the country, they work in a not-for-profit environment, but then you have issues like capitation, you have hidden fees, you have cash payments. That corruption, for that to go, you have to allow the free markets to function. But somehow our political system is not willing to get over this hypocrisy. We would have expected a strong Modi government to do it. They haven't done it. Maybe in the course of time it will be done, but otherwise I think the same tamasha that you see today will continue, which is not a very good thing. So these are the big changes. I told you also that before I let you go, I'll tell you something from personal experience. Something that will tell you a lot that is wrong with India's education system, and something that may be in many ways right with our system. Now, I will show you, this is no family secret, I will show you some part of my academic record that frankly most people will not show you. So, I was destined to study science from the very beginning because that's how you were meant to be. Because if you did not take science, you were even initially seen to be good for nothing. So, with science, we were studying science to go out and become a doctor because I didn't have any math. I couldn't become an engineer. So, my pre-university and pre-medical, I have a stunningly consistent academic record. So stunningly consistent that it is accurate to the last decimal point. In both years, pre-university and pre-medical, I got exactly 48.7% marks. And I'm sharing parts of those 2 mark sheets with you. I have soft copies of those. I was a write-off because in pre-medical 48.7% is a 3rd division. And then something happened. My 2nd year and final year, I got so many marks that it embarrassed me. On the upside, it pleased my parents, but I think it embarrassed my teachers also on the upside. Only thing is, at the end of it, I didn't know how I knew any more science as a topper than I knew as a 3rd divisioner. And then as life turned out, I chose a pursuit which directly had nothing to do with botany, zoology, chemistry. So I can say that my education was a waste. I'm not saying that, I'm saying I can say that. I can say that my marks meant nothing. So if my low marks meant nothing, my high marks also meant nothing. That means the marking system, the marks-based system was wrong. Problem was there were not choices available. So I spent a lot of time in my college library reading contemporary history instead of science for a long time. Now I find some of that science is useful because if I talk about coronavirus now, at least I know the difference between a virus, a bacteria, a malarial parasite, or a fungus. And don't ask me if I have more marks in 2nd year and final year, why am I not flaunting those mark sheets? Because those are not relevant. My point is already made with the 2 mark sheets where I have very poor marks, because that tells you that this system of learning by rote, exams, marks, insular education, etc. is deeply flawed. I am a good example of how flawed this system is. So you have to have basic knowledge of many things and you have to study a lot more. We need to be a lot more multidisciplinary. We need to be assessed much better. The system has to be much fairer, and also this lottery of marks has to go, and this obscenity of 98% plus percenters not finding college seats also has to go, because underlying that is another problem that this policy doesn't address, which is undersupply. We have undersupply of high education, of good education. This policy promises or dreams that by 2035, that is 15 years from now, very close, 2035, they will have twice as many Indians in higher education institutions, HEIs, as today. Today, 26% Indians go to higher education. By 2035, they want 50%. That means of the children who will now go to school in 15 years, 50% of them will go to higher education. For that to happen, you have to increase the supply of higher education phenomenally. And you might say that you will increase your budget from 6%, from 4.4% to 6% as a percent of the GDP between the center and the states together. That also will not give you that supply. You need the private sector. And for the private sector to be there, you want that private sector to be transparent, free from government interference, transparent fee structures, regulated but minimally in a minimally invasive manner, so that this private sector competes with your public sector. Even today, all engineering colleges, even if they are taking capitation on the side, are competing with the IITs, or medical colleges are competing with the AIIMS. So you build more of those, let others build institutions of excellence, compete with the or rise to the standards that you've set, but please stop this nonsense, this complete hypocrisy of education being purely a not-for-profit business.